These actors tried to take Israelis back in time to November 29, 1947, to the historic moment in Jerusalem when news broke that the United Nations had passed Resolution 181, known as the Partition Plan. Voting 33 in favor, the UN officially endorsed the establishment of the State of Israel, dividing the land for Jews and for Arabs. 64 years ago, thousands of Jews living in pre-state Israel poured into this spot to dance following the news of the UN vote. Back then, it was the home of the Israeli Knesset, or parliament. Today, children of all ages did the same to celebrate the euphoric moment the international community recognized the Jewish people's right to establish a state of their own.
We are doing again what we did for 64 years ago when our country built. So it's very exciting, and I really like to be here.
The World Zionist Organization staged this elaborate reenactment of the day's events. They played an original 1947 Hebrew radio report announcing the UN victory. Actors dressed up as soldiers, citizens, and musicians from the 1940s amused and rejoiced with the crowd. Likud lawmaker Danny Danon plans to draft a bill to turn November 29th into National Zionism Day.
We're celebrating even though we have many obstacles, many enemies, and many challenges, but we should be very happy about this historical day when after 2,000 years, Jews were able to come back to the land of Israel.
Another authentic touch today is this car. It's a 1948 Citroen. It's very similar to the car that brought Golda Meir here that day after the UN approved the partition plan. And Golda did show up in that car. Well, an actress playing Golda did, as well as actors playing the two leading rabbis of pre-state Israel. From the balcony, they each read portions of the actual speeches which Israelis heard back on that day in 1947. One central figure was missing, the man who would become Israel's first prime minister, David Ben-Gurion. But Israelis seemed to enjoy the theater of it all nonetheless. Former politician and current Jewish Agency executive Natan Sharansky also addressed the crowd. We caught up with him backstage where he told us why he came.
It's a great opportunity to remind ourselves how 67 years ago we were recognized by the United Nations. And we were recognized not because of successful lobbying, or not because of the interest of some superpowers, but simply because we built our state from the underground. We already, at that moment, the United Nations recognized us. We already existed as a state. And we had not only industry, not only agriculture, not only a medical system and the welfare system, but we had the army, which could defend us from the very next day. From the very next day when we were recognized, we started fighting for our resistance. So it's very important today to remember that our future is only in our hands.
Eliezer Mizrahi was 21 and living in Jerusalem the day the UN approved the partition plan. He proudly showed off a photo of himself from that day. He says he remembers hearing the news over the radio.
We went out to the streets. We started to sing and dance all day and all night. It was a big celebration, but to my great regret, the Arabs didn't accept it.
Mizrahi ended up fighting in the War of Independence when 5 Arab nations declared war on Israel in May of 1948. Shaked's parents moved to Israel from Ethiopia, which added personal meaning to her participation in the event.
And I'm happy to be in here this year and dance with all the people in here, and we are very proud of our country. That's really proud.
Others said the reenactment of the historical event was a good way to teach the younger generations.
You see most of the people here, the kids here, I don't think I have any idea what happened or what they hear about it in school, but they don't really understand what it is. And I think it's basically nice for them to see what was the spirit like, what happened here.
Organizers at the World Zionist Organization say they plan to do this event every year especially in light of the increasing attacks on Israel's legitimate right to exist. Jordana Miller, JN1, Jerusalem.